A weekend. That's all it was supposed to be. Just a weekend in her world. My sister, Maya, had this idea after months of watching me drift through life quiet, withdrawn, lost in my own hesitation. "You need to stop hiding behind what you think people expect of you," she said one Friday evening as we sat on her couch, the city glowing through her apartment window. "Come stay with me this weekend. Let's try something different." I didn't know what she meant by different. I thought maybe she just wanted to drag me to a few parties or take me shopping, the kind of things she always loved. But when she opened her wardrobe and smiled, I realized what she meant. "You've spent your whole life trying to fit into someone else's version of you," she said. "Just for this weekend, I want you to try fitting into mine." I laughed nervously. "You're kidding, right?" But she wasn't. There were her clothes neatly laid out on the bed. A soft cream sweater, a skirt with tiny floral patterns, tights, and a pair of boots that looked too small for me. She wasn't mocking me. Her eyes were calm, almost knowing. "No one's going to judge you here. Just trust me." I don't know why I said yes. Maybe I was tired of saying no to everything. Maybe some part of me was curious about what it would feel like to let go, even just for a moment. The first few minutes felt awkward. The fabric against my skin was unfamiliar, light, almost fragile. I caught my reflection in the mirror and froze. The person staring back looked different. Softer. Not just in appearance, something deeper, like I'd peeled off a layer of fear I didn't even know I carried. Maya stood behind me, resting a hand on my shoulder. "You see," she whispered. "You've been hiding someone beautiful all along." That night, she did my makeup. She didn't go overboard, just enough to make my features gentler, to bring something forward that had been hiding beneath the surface. When she was done, she turned me toward the mirror again. I remember the silence between us, how it stretched into something sacred. I wasn't seeing a stranger. I was seeing me, maybe for the first time. We spent that night talking. She told me stories from her childhood, about how she used to try on Mom's clothes and pretend she was someone older, freer, stronger. And I told her something I'd never told anyone, that ever since I was little, I'd sometimes imagined what it would be like to not have to pretend to be the boy everyone thought I was supposed to be. That confession came out trembling, raw, but she didn't flinch. She just held my hand and said softly, "Maybe you're not pretending right now." Saturday morning felt strange in the best way. Maya made coffee while I sat by the window, still dressed from the night before. The sun painted everything gold. I should have felt ridiculous sitting there in clothes that weren't mine, in a body that wasn't supposed to move this way, but I didn't. I felt peaceful. Free. When she suggested we go out, I panicked at first. "Out? Like, out?" She nodded. "You'll be fine. The world isn't watching you as closely as you think." We went to a small cafe downtown, the kind where no one really looks up from their laptops. The sound of coffee machines, the hum of conversations, everything felt normal, and yet nothing was. I caught a glimpse of myself in the reflection of the window. I didn't see disguise or make-believe. I saw calm. For the first time in years, my heartbeat wasn't racing with anxiety over how I appeared. I smiled, genuinely, and Maya noticed. "You're glowing," she said. "That's what being yourself looks like." But not every moment was easy. Later that afternoon, as we walked through a crowded street, I overheard someone laugh behind us. It wasn't directed at me, I think, but my chest tightened anyway. My old fear returned, whispering that I didn't belong, that I was making a fool of myself. I wanted to run. Maya sensed it instantly. She stopped, turned me toward her, and said quietly, "You don't owe anyone an explanation for who you are. Not them, not even me. You just have to breathe and keep walking." That night we went home and watched movies. I didn't change out of the clothes. I couldn't bring myself to. They'd stopped feeling like a costume. When she went to sleep, I stayed up, standing in front of the mirror. I looked at the person in front of me and tried to find the version of myself I used to know, the one who always played it safe, who always apologized for existing. He wasn't there anymore. I didn't know what to call what I was feeling, but it was powerful, like stepping into sunlight after years in the shade. Sunday morning came too soon. I was supposed to go back home that evening, back to my normal clothes, my normal name, my normal life. Maya hugged me tightly before she went out to run errands. "Remember," she said, "you don't have to lose what you found this weekend." I nodded, but when she left, I sat on her bed for a long time, staring at the clothes folded neatly beside me, the jeans and shirt I'd arrived in. They felt foreign now, heavy. I picked them up and held them in my hands, but something inside me resisted. I couldn't do it. I couldn't go back. I walked into the bathroom and looked at myself again. The face I saw wasn't pretending anymore. It was real. It was me. I didn't know how to explain it, not to Maya, not to my parents, not to anyone, but in that quiet moment, I understood something simple and terrifying. Sometimes the truest version of ourselves is the one we've been too afraid to meet. When Maya came home and saw me still dressed the same, she didn't look surprised. She just smiled, sat beside me, and asked, "So, what now?" I didn't have an answer. I just said, "I don't think this was just a weekend anymore." She reached for my hand again, squeezed it, and whispered, "Then let's figure it out together." The days that followed weren't easy. There were awkward conversations, judgmental stares, moments where I doubted everything. Some friends drifted away. Some didn't know what to say. But others stayed, people who saw beyond appearances and loved me for the person underneath. And Maya, she became my anchor. She reminded me that courage isn't loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's just quietly refusing to disappear. A year has passed since that weekend. I live in a new apartment now, small but bright. I've learned how to exist without flinching at my reflection. Some days are hard, I still wake up uncertain, wondering how the world will see me. But most days, I feel alive in a way I never did before. I found a new circle of friends, people who don't question who I am. They just see me fully, completely. Sometimes, I still wear the cream sweater Maya gave me that first night. It's worn at the sleeves now, but it feels like home. Every time I put it on, I remember her voice. "You've been hiding someone beautiful all along." I didn't understand it then, but I do now. Beauty isn't about how the world sees you, it's about finally seeing yourself without shame. If I could tell anyone watching this one thing, it would be this: don't wait for permission to be yourself. Don't wait for a perfect moment, or a weekend, or someone else to tell you it's okay. Life is too short to live in someone else's reflection. The world might not always understand you, but you owe yourself the chance to understand who you truly are. That weekend started as a simple experiment, a sister's strange idea to shake me out of my shell. But it became the turning point of my life. It taught me that identity isn't something we invent to please others, it's something we uncover when we stop pretending. And maybe that's what real transformation is, not changing into someone new, but finally allowing the person you've always been to step forward. So yes, it started as a weekend in her world. But somewhere between her laughter, her mirror, and my reflection, I realized that world was mine too. And I haven't left it since. I didn't expect life to keep shifting after that weekend, but it did in quiet, unplanned ways that changed everything. When I returned to work that Monday, I felt like a stranger moving through familiar spaces. My coworkers greeted me like always, but something inside me had already moved on. I had spent years blending in, keeping my head down, laughing when I was supposed to, agreeing when I didn't believe a word of what I said. But after living even for 2 days as the person I truly felt inside, pretending became unbearable. For the first few weeks, I tried to ignore it. I told myself it was just an emotional high, a temporary phase, a moment. I kept replaying Maya's words in my head, "You don't have to lose what you found." But I didn't know how to keep it while living in a world that only knew the old version of me. I'd wake up each morning staring at my clothes, feeling disconnected from them. They looked like armor I didn't need anymore, protecting me from a battle I no longer wanted to fight. Maya noticed it too. She'd call me in the evenings and ask, "How was your day?" And I'd answer, "Fine." But she could always hear the lie in my voice. One night she said, "You can't keep going backward. You saw who you are. You can't unsee that." That sentence haunted me. So one Friday after work, I made a decision that terrified me. I packed an overnight bag, got on the bus, and went back to her place. I stood outside her door for a long minute before knocking. When she opened it, she didn't even ask why I was there. She just smiled, stepped aside, and said, "Welcome home." That night, we didn't talk much. She cooked pasta while I sat at the table, my hands trembling around a glass of water. Finally, she said softly, "You know, you don't have to explain anything to me. You just have to be honest with yourself." And something inside me broke open. I told her everything, how trapped I felt, how the world seemed to shrink whenever I had to pretend, how that weekend had opened a door I couldn't close. Maya listened quietly, then got up and returned with a small box. "I've been keeping this," she said. Inside was the same floral skirt from that weekend, freshly washed and neatly folded. "It's yours now," she said. I held it in my hands, and something about that simple gesture, her trust, her acceptance, made me cry for the first time in years. Over the next few days, I stayed with her again. But this time, it wasn't an experiment. I started to live the small, ordinary routines that felt extraordinary simply because I was finally being me. Making breakfast, brushing my hair, walking down the street without fear, each moment felt like learning how to breathe again. The world didn't fall apart. People barely noticed. And when they did, it wasn't the disaster I'd imagined. One woman in a grocery store smiled at me and said, "That color looks lovely on you." That simple kindness nearly brought me to tears. But it wasn't always easy. One evening, when I decided to meet an old friend for dinner, I almost turned back twice before reaching the restaurant. I could feel eyes on me, or maybe I just imagined them. When my friend arrived, he stared for a long second before saying, "You look different." I braced for judgment, but then he added, "Happier. Lighter." That word lighter stayed with me. The weeks turned into months. I began to make changes slowly but surely. I told my boss that I needed time off, not because I was sick, but because I needed to find myself. He didn't understand, but he respected it. I spent that time rebuilding, piece by piece. I started seeing a counselor, someone who helped me navigate the storm inside me, not to label it, not to fix it, but to understand it. She told me, sometimes transformation isn't about becoming something new. It's about finally giving yourself permission to exist. The day I told my parents was the hardest of all. I drove home, my hands shaking on the steering wheel the entire way. Maya had offered to come, but I told her I needed to do this myself. My mother opened the door, smiling, unaware of the storm inside me. I told them everything slowly, honestly, through tears. The silence afterward was unbearable. My father's face tightened, my mother's eyes welled up. I thought I'd lost them right there. But then my mom reached across the table, took my hand, and whispered, "I just want you to be happy." That was all. Not perfect acceptance, not total understanding, but love. That was enough. There were hard days afterward. There still are. Days when I question everything, when I wonder if I made life harder for myself, when I hear whispers or feel the weight of stares that cut deeper than words. But then I remember that weekend, how it started with one simple act of courage, guided by love, and how it saved me. Now, a year and a half later, I look around my apartment, my own space filled with soft light, quiet music, and pieces of the person I've become. On the dresser sits that same floral skirt, neatly folded. I don't wear it much anymore, not because I don't want to, but because it served its purpose. It was never just fabric. It was the key that unlocked the part of me I thought I'd lost forever. Sometimes, when I visit Maya, we still laugh about how it all started. She teases me, saying, "You were so nervous that first night." And I laugh, but I also tell her the truth. That night changed everything. She'll smile and say, "No, you did. You changed everything." If there's a lesson in all of this, it's that identity doesn't wait for the world's permission. It waits for your own. It waits for that single moment when you stop running from yourself. The truth might scare people. It might even scare you. But it's worth it, because on the other side of fear is freedom, and on the other side of doubt is peace. That weekend in her world didn't just show me who I could be, it showed me that I already was. I just needed someone brave enough to hand me a mirror. And now, when I look at that reflection, I don't see confusion or shame anymore. I see life. I see truth. I see me.